Well, Merry Christmas, everybody. Although, sometimes it just makes you say this one thing. I'm getting too old for this crap. Or like what Danny Glover says it. I'm getting too old for this crap. I can't say the SH word because don't want don't want Kappa to breathe down my neck. Anyway, for this Christmas review, I decided to review something that some of you never even know that the first one started out as a Christmas movie before they made the sequels and all. And the movie I'm going to review for you today for this Christmas is none other than Lethal Weapon. You know, if I had a soundtrack, I would like to have that song they played on the Lethal Weapon trailer. That But anyway, what can I say about the Lethal Weapon movies? What can you say about the Lethal Weapon movies? They're just pretty awesome movies. And one thing you should know that unlike Die Hard, I know some of you are thinking I should review Die Hard, but tell you the truth, I already did Die Hard. You see, I already did the Die Hard review 2 Christmas ago. And for those of you who are too lazy to check out my list of movies, I'll put a link in the bottom so you guys can go ahead and check out my Die Hard review. But one thing I remember in Lethal Weapon. Oh, a little known fact. Did you know that Bruce Willis was asked to play the part as Mel Gibson's character? I sure as heck didn't. And they did ask Mel Gibson to play John McClane on Die Hard. Would that be kind of interesting? Hearing Mel Gibson going like, well, yippee-ki-yay, sucker. Come on, Nicole, let's get it together. Make a few laughs. I know what TV dinner feels like. Ugh. And sadly, Mel Gibson don't have any catchphrases. Only Danny Glover does. Him and his "I'm getting too over this crap." And believe it or not, he got his role playing this character from his last performance of Color Purple with Whoopi Goldberg and Oprah Winfrey. But imagine if Bruce Willis played Riggs. I mean, Danny Glover would be like, "Isn't this somebody who you didn't kill?" "Yeah, well, I haven't killed you yet." Of course, I always like that line, that, "Isn't this somebody who you didn't kill?" "Well, I haven't killed you yet." And of course, I remember in the sequel, I have a bad reputation, like I could go crazy, like right here and now. Which one are you gonna get it? Eeny, meeny, miny. Hey, Mo! I may hate guns, but I do like twirling these. It's the cowboy within me. Anyway, in the beginning of Lethal Weapon 1, now bear in mind the first movie did have nudity in it, but it's just from one girl. In the beginning, you see this girl in a white lingerie and such, just laying on the couch, and all of a sudden started snorting heroin. And then the next thing she did, she walked out the window, started climbing up into the balcony, and then just dropped down and hit somebody's car. And after that, that's when Danny Glover, named Roger Murtaugh, he wakes up and he was about fixing to retire after his years working as a cop for all those years. I mean, he was fixing to retire. But he has one more case to do, and he's also going to be teaming up with a new partner. Now, Riggs, on the other hand, played by Mel Gibson, he's every crook's worst nightmare. He gone through the death of his wife who died in a car accident, and every night he always thought about suicide. I mean, heck, he has his own special bullet ready to aim the gun right in his mouth, but he stops. Now, when the original writer who wrote Lethal Weapon, he did wrote it to be a very dark action movie, but they thought it was too dark. That's when another writer shows up and start changing it and put some more humor into it. And of course, Mel Gibson's character, Riggs, he has a death wish. One time he deals with a bunch of guys who are coke heroin dealers, and they're using selling Christmas tree as a cover-up. And I remember that one scene where he was about ready to pay the guy with the stuff, making a deal, and then all of a sudden they needed credit. They need more money for that. And then they call him crazy, and he said, "You want to see crazy? Want to see crazy?" All right, police, heads up. Here's one thing Mel Gibson and I have in common. We're both huge Three Stooges fan. As you can tell, I'm always a huge Stooge fan. Why silent? Shut up. And you always pick it on me, Wasco. And also Bruce Willis, he's also a Stooge fan, so... Gee. Mel Gibson's a Stooge fan. Bruce Willis is a Stooge fan. Sam Raimi, who made those Evil Dead movies, he's a Three Stooges fan. Matt Groening. Hey, I also heard that Bridget Fonda is also a Stooge fan. Dang. Wow. Anyway, back to the story. He also did another thing where there was a sniper who kept firing his automatic weapon to children, and the cops try to stop him, but it's up to Riggs, who just walks right up into the playground, get his gun ready, and as the bad guy kept firing his gun, fire his until he's down. So pretty much he kind of has a death wish. I mean, after the death of his wife, he really wanted to die. And of course his precinct therapist kept warning the captain about him because he's a walking time bomb, a loose cannon. He's also gun happy. Why you keep on saying that? Don't worry, guys. It's a broken BB gun, in case you're wondering. Anyway, the first time when he met Roger, Danny Glover, he saw Mel Gibson pulling out a gun, and he was like, "Gun!" And then he was about ready to attack him, but Mel Gibson toppled him over, pointing his gun at him. And that's when Danny Glover's friend saying, Roger, this is your new partner, Martin Riggs. And that's when Danny Glover said, "I'm getting too old for this crap." And of course, I do love the talk about the gun they use. So they registered you as a lethal weapon. Yeah, that's right. What kind of gun you using? Desert Eagle .50. How about yours? How about yours? Smith & Wesson? A lot of old timers use that. uh, anyway, Roger starts to discover that that the woman who committed suicide, it was no suicide. Turns out that the cocaine that she sniffed was poison. So it was murder. And also discover that her last name was Hunsacker. And that triggered his memory because he knows a Hunsacker, his old friend during the army when they both served during the Vietnam War. And he saved his life, so he's going to help him figure out who were responsible for the death of his daughter. But it turns out it became a huge cover-up because you have this guy who was a general. It turns out he was a former military guy in the Special Forces who served in the Vietnam Army and now found heroin there, and now he starts making deals with drug dealers and drug users throughout the city with the heroin that he discovered in Vietnam. So he became a big-time dealer. And of course, this evil general has a right-hand, former general to be precise, he also has a right-hand man who's a specialist in the U.S. Special Forces, played by Gary Busey. That's right, I'm your worst nightmare, butthorn! Yeah! Sometimes I like to get old Gary Busey crazy around here. You can't go wrong with Gary Busey, you know. Anyway, throughout the whole story, they're trying to find the area where they're making their deals with the heroin and such. And Gary Busey, he keeps trying to kill anybody who silences them. He even showed up to shoot Mel Gibson in the chest, and when they were checking on him, he had a bulletproof vest. So as he got up, he was like, "Ah, okay, now I'm really paid. Okay, I'm gonna get that." And of course, the next thing they notice, Danny Glover's daughter has been kidnapped. A little known fact, the actress in this movie who plays Danny Glover's older daughter, who seems to be staring at Mel Gibson. But of course, who hasn't been staring at Mel Gibson? I mean, everybody always kept saying that Mel Gibson always has the most sexiest look in the world and the most sexiest butt. Because he always shows his butt in every movie he appears in. Hey, I can't help it. It's too bad it's the old Mel Gibson and not the new Mel Gibson, where he's more like, "Oh, my nipples, they hurt! Hurts when I twist it! You're gonna torture me, are ya?" Ah, shut up. It was me making fun of Mel Gibson from South Park. Oh, my nipples, they hurt! Anyway, the actress who starred in this movie, she was actually close to her 30s, but she looks really young for a girl in her 30s. Of course, I heard that she only appeared in all 3 Lethal Weapon movies, and then after that, she got married and retired. Anyway, the bad guys kidnapped Danny Glover's older daughter, and they started torturing them because they're looking for a certain microfilm where they get their information for their heroin. But of course, they don't have it. So they keep torturing them and torturing them. I mean, like, they cut Danny Glover's arm and kept putting salt on his wounds. That's how they torture Danny Glover. And also threatening to take advantage to his daughter. While Mel Gibson, on the other hand, he had them all handcuffed with running water. And of course, has this guy who has this electronic device who always keeps shocking him, going like... Anyway, Mel Gibson, as usual, always escapes, and he also helps them out. One thing about the movies is they had a lot of personality to them. He has a death wish because of the death of his wife, but Danny Glover, who's a family man and an honest cop, he decided to welcome him into his house and meet his family, and that never happens to him in his life, being welcome as one of the family. Anyway, throughout the whole movie, they finally got rid of the general. Of course, he had a car full of heroin, and his car toppled over, and the general was stuck, and then the car exploded. So now there's a huge heroin rain going on, spraying around, and some of them were inhaling it. And of course, Mel Gibson, he tells Danny Glover, "Hey, don't inhale this. You see pink elephants." But anyway, they're trying to get Gary Busey, and since Mel Gibson, who knows about Gary Busey's past, because Mel Gibson's character, he is also a former Marine who studied jiu-jitsu during the Army. So Gary Busey and Mel Gibson decided to go on a one-on-one fight with each other. I mean, a one-on-one special forces fight between the two former special forces guys, until Mel Gibson was about ready to kill him, but Danny Glover said, "He's not worth it. He's not worth it, Riggs. He's not worth it." So he let him go, and as the cops were about ready to handcuff him, Gary Busey grabs a gun, and they both fire their gun at him. Now, there was an alternate ending where, that pretty much should have pretty much ended the series, but a good thing they didn't show it. That Mel Gibson, he decided to go off on a better life as a cop. And as for Danny Glover's character, he was just looking forward for his retirement. Retired from the force and live a simple life. And saying their farewells. So, that was the alternate ending, which, thank goodness, that didn't show. What they really did show is that Mel Gibson showed up to Danny Glover's house and decided to give him the special bullet, the bullet that he was planning to kill himself with. He decided to want him to have it because he gave him a little bit more hope in his life. And he also, Danny Glover welcomes him into the house, and he also brought his dog, and they have a cat in their house. I know, it's a catastrophe. And that is Lethal Weapon for you. The first one, it started the whole buddy cop thing. Although this wasn't the first buddy cop movie, if you want to know what was the very first buddy cop movie, check out 48 Hours, starring Eddie Murphy. And then they decided to make a sequel. And the sequel is Lethal Weapon 2, where they're still working together, and the bad guys they're dealing with this time are a group of British and German crooks who are smuggling gold coins from South Africa. And as they were about ready to apprehend them, sadly, the crooks have diplomatic immunities. Yeah, just like the bad guys on Lethal Weapon 2. I got diplomatic immunity, so Hammer, you can't sue. I can even write graffiti, even jaywalk in the street. I can write loot, not give a hoot, and touch your sister's shoulder. Can't touch me. Can't touch me. Except for you, girl. You can touch me. Sorry, I like to get a little Family Guy here. Anyway, you see, this is one thing I do have a problem. I hate people with diplomatic immunities. I mean, anybody who comes to our country and have diplomatic communities, it's like their way of saying, we're coming to this country and there's not a dang thing you cops can do about it, so we can do whatever we want. But who tells them it's alright for them to go to the cop's house and kill them one by one in the movie? That's what these guys did. These bad guys have diplomatic community that they can kill the cops, and there's nothing that the cops can do about it. Anyway, all of a sudden they introduce this British actress who is playing this German girl who becomes a new love interest to Mel Gibson. And of course, there is sort of a brief sex scene in the sequel. But anyway, throughout the entire movie, you also start noticing more about Mel Gibson's secret. He does the old Houdini trick where he got himself into a straitjacket, and then the only way he can get himself out of it is dislocated his arm. And they ask him, "Did it hurt when you dislocated?" And he said, "Oh, no, not really. But it's a lot more painful trying to get it back in." And then he hits his shoulder on the wall, going like, "Oh! Oh!" Thank goodness I never had a dislocation anywhere. Nah, be very painful for me anyway. Last thing I need is have a dislocated arm, and I'm saying, "Excuse me, folks, I need a yank. Dislocated." And of course, this here when we introduce Joe Pesci in the movie, who is actually a whiny comic relief, who goes like, "Okay, whatever, okay." And of course, I remember the introduction. He plays a character who goes by the name of Leo Getz. Hey, anything you want, Leo Getz, eh? Eh, well, I can't say it. Something I used to say in good business. What are you trying to say, huh? You think I'm funny? You think I'm funny? You think I amuse you, huh? What are you trying to say? But he is funny in this movie. I remember the first time they introduced him, they had to guard Leo Getz because he's in the witness protection, and then they knocked on his door, and Joe Pesci said, "Who is it?" "We're the police." "How could I tell you the police?" "Well, after I shoot you through the door, you can examine the bullet." So he let him in, and so now Leo becomes a part of their situation, and even one time, Danny Glover had a little help from Leo, where he wants him to go to the to that British guy who's a trade center thing, and Joe Pesci said, "You better talk to my friend because he wants to go to South Africa, but you got to talk him out of it. I don't want him to go." And when Danny Glover shows up, he was like, "So I think you better listen to your friend." "Oh yeah? Why is it? Why can't I go to South Africa?" "But, cause you're black." "Oh, because I'm black?" I always love that. I love that line. I mean, out of all the things I ever heard, him telling him not to go to South Africa because he's black, that bugs me. But of course, diplomatic community bugs me more. I mean, if I met a bad guy who starts waving a diplomatic community saying, "Diplomatic community," I said, "To hell with your community. You're dead. It's just been revoked." Of course, that's what Danny Glover said. Anyway, a little thing that was really surprising in the second movie is that there was this German hitman who works with the boss, and all of a sudden he recognizes Mel Gibson. He said that he was the one that he planned a hit on, but sadly, he killed his wife instead, and her death wasn't quick. So it turns out that the death of his wife wasn't an accident. It was murder. So now he's really peed off, and they also drowned that German girl that Mel Gibson was flirting with. So now Mel Gibson is peed off, and he wants to kill those guys with the help of Danny Glover. So they pretty much killed all the bad guys, and that main bad guy, the main one, fired his gun at Mel Gibson, and then when Danny Glover said, "Drop it, a-hole," he said, "Diplomatic community," and then he shot him in the head and said, "Has just been revoked." This is why I hate diplomatic communities, because I hate people who have rights to do whatever the heck they want, even illegal, and the cops can't do anything about it. I hate that. I hate people who does that. But anyway, and then they end the second movie with one of mine and Grandma's favorite song that they played at the end of the movie. It goes like, "Knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. Hi, hey, 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 yeah. Knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. Ooh, yeah. Knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. Ooh, yeah." Anyway, everybody thought that Lethal Weapon 2 was pretty much enough. But not for long, because they decided to do Lethal Weapon 3. And Joe Pesci dyed his hair blonde. In the story, it turns out that there was a former cop who goes by the name of Jack Travis. He starts selling illegal cop killer bullets to an arms dealer. And he has cop killers. I mean, bullets that are so pointy that it can pierce through their bulletproof vest. And of course, there is also the famous scene where Mel Gibson and Danny Glover has to try to cut off the wire of the bomb before it goes off. And of course, a cat just landed right on top of the car. I know, it's a catastrophe. And then after he cut the wrong wire, he was like, "Raj, yeah, grab the cat!" And then Danny Glover grabbed the cat, and they both ran out the building and didn't explode. Meanwhile, Leo Getz is trying to sell Danny Glover's house, but sadly, Leo kept saying things that really peed off Danny Glover, talking about one German bad guy that Danny Glover killed with a nail gun, and the car they ran through the house during Christmas, and also a toilet bombing. That's one thing I forgot to mention. They put a bomb on Danny Glover's toilet, so now he's stuck on the toilet, and Mel Gibson has to help him, has to save him before it explodes. There always be such very embarrassing scenes in it. Anyway, all of a sudden we meet a new character. Now, I forgot her name. Let's see. Oh. Lorna Cole. Played by the lovely Ren Russo. Ren Russo? Give me a break. I mean, cut me some slack here. I mean, I'm trying to remember all the names here, okay? Anyway, Danny Glover's daughter is trying to become an actress, and every time when Mel Gibson, I mean, he thought for a moment Mel Gibson thought that Danny Glover's daughter was being mugged, but he tackled down an actor. They were doing a scene, and of course she was really flattered that he helped her. And all of a sudden, the director got really peed off. He fired her. But when you're friends with Mel Gibson helps you out. He just tackled the director down and keep poking his eyes like the Three Stooges, going like, Is she out? Is she out? Yes. Boom. Oh, okay, she's not out. She's not out. You're rehired. Oh, that's good. And one thing he starts noticing about Lorna is that she studies martial arts and she's also a Three Stooges fan. And they also did that one, I gotta say, it's kind of romantic but funny at the same time when they're showing off each other's scars on their bodies. Well, I don't have any scars. Well, except I do have a giant mole remove on my chest here. It looks a lot like a bullet wound. And I also did got stabbed by a fork somewhere. And of course, I do have a butcher knife scar right here, and a common knife scar here, and a couple of little scars on my hands. I was playing with knives, but that was in the past. Little lesson, kids. Don't play with knives. Your hands are going to end up with scars. Anyway, they shared each other's scars, and all of a sudden... And of course, one thing about Lorna, she's Eternal Affairs. So she pretty much told Mel Gibson and Danny Glover that the bad guys they're dealing with is this really crooked former cop named Jack Travis. So now they're trying to get that punk. And here was one thing. He noticed that he saw his son's best friend, who is now no longer his friend. They kept selling weapons, even cop killers, that Danny Glover had to grab a gun to fire back, and much of his surprise, his son's best friend was the one firing his gun at him. And now he can't get over it. He's getting drunk and miserable about it. That Mel Gibson has to walk up to him and try to comfort him. And try to get the booze away from him. Well, at the same time, Mel Gibson, he decided to quit smoking. And guess what Danny Glover wanted him to do? Eat dog biscuits. And of course, he's a dog man, just like me. I'm a dog person myself. Except pit bulls. I don't like pit bulls. They're too dangerous. And I had my experience with a Rottweiler long ago. And a Doberman. So I had my shares of bad dogs in the past. But I'm still a dog man. Dog person. I mean, I used to be a cat person, but my last pet I had was a cat and passed away. She passed away naturally, old age. But anyway, back to the story here. Mel Gibson felt pretty bad himself because he slept with the DA woman. And when he tried to tell Danny Glover that he slept with someone that he shouldn't have, for a moment he thought that he slept with his daughter, but he said it wasn't your daughter, it was Lana. Lana called the DA. Oh, I see. I see. Man, that's one thing I like about Lethal Weapon. They always have their funny moments. Anyway, and one time Joe Pesci found Jack Travis. Oh, one thing I remember, every time when they were back to kick some butt, Leo, aka Joe Pesci, going like, "We're back! We're back! Hey, can I get a gun?" No! But one time, Joe Pesci did tackle with Jack Travis in the hockey ring, but Jack Travis shot him in the arm, and they want him to stay in the hospital. Even decided to give him a lobotomy. It's where they shave your private area and try to remove something that's not supposed to be there. It's like a lobotomy, but in the private. Yeah, I also visit hospitals once or twice and know a couple of medical stuff. Anyway, I mean, I could be a doctor, but I couldn't tolerate the gore and the blood. I couldn't. I don't have a strong enough stomach, and I'm not used to very stinky smells. Like corpses. Anyway, back in the story, They finally found the area where Jack Travis is at, and of course Lana decided to join along with them. So, my favorite scene I like what Mel Gibson did is that he decided to empty out the gas on the truck. He was going like, and then eggs on. It's like he knows what kind of station they get their gas from. I think that's funny. And I always like it when Danny Glover always says, "Riggs, you crazy SOB! Yeah!" And of course, I love that one line he says when Lana gets shot by Jack Travis using those cop killers. But he was happy that she was wearing 2 bulletproof vests, so she's doing okay. She also do have a flesh wound, but it's not too serious. But anyway, when Mel Gibson was about ready to tackle Jack Travis, he was like, "I'm gonna eat your freaking heart out!" You know, that's exactly how I would have said right there. I mean, if anybody decided to do my girlfriend any harm, or anybody who ever hurt my girlfriend, or try to kill my girlfriend, my attitude would be like this: I'm gonna eat your freaking heart out! I could be that offended. I could be that paid off. Anyway, back to the thing. Jack Travis was about ready to gain the upper hand, but Riggs going like, "Hey Riggs, cop killers!" So Mel Gibson grabs the gun with a bunch of cop killers in them, and Jack Travis was going towards them with a bulldozer. So he fired his gun, and the bullet went through the bulldozer, and it shot Jack dead. And that was it. That was the end of it. And everybody always Danny, Danny Glover's family were hoping that he will retire, but ever since with his new partner and everything he goes through, he decided to stay on the force for a little while. And his wife is okay with that. And that there is Lethal Weapon 3 for you. Now, before I get to 4, there was one thing I wanted to mention. Now, this is one thing I want to review along with the Lethal Weapon movies. Now, National Lampoon, 1 year after Lethal Weapon 3, National Lampoon decided to do a Lethal Weapon parody in this movie. And the movie is Loaded Weapon 1, starring Emilio Estevez and Samuel Stegan Jackson. Now, this is a really good parody of Lethal Weapon. A good parody to it. And believe it or not, Bruce Willis makes an appearance in this. When the bad guys was shooting Emilio Estevez's house, all of a sudden you see Bruce Willis waving the white flag, going like, "What the heck are you doing?" And the helicopter guy says, "Is this 1014 Pacific Coast Highway?" "Huh? 1014 Pacific Coast Highway." "No! This is 814 Pacific Coast Highway. 1014 is 2 blocks down that way." "Sorry, sir. My mistake." "Yeah, no problem. No problem." He must have gone through that every day. And of course, you have also William Shatner playing the bad guy, and of course his henchman played by Tim Curry. "Wilderness girls." And of course Whoopi Goldberg, who plays an old friend to Samuel Jackson. So for any of you who likes to see a buddy cop parody, check out Loaded Weapon 1. It is a really good. It's a really good parody. And of course, a bit of a hint. Here's a little known fact. Do you know that Emilio Estevez is Charlie Sheen's brother? And they're trying to hint that Eugene Levitt say, "Hey, have you ever seen Hot Shots? I mean, I'm not trying to do some comparison, but you're doing this, and your brother," and Emilio Estevez says, "Okay, Becker, this has your name written all over it. No!" And Charlie Sheen does appear in this movie as a chauffeur. And also, if you look real close in this movie, when you see Dennis Leary playing the piano and the girls standing next to him, if you look real close to those four or three girls, you're going to discover that one of those girls is Denise Richard herself as one of the piano girls with Dave with Dennis Leary. Who would have thought that Denise Richards appeared in this movie, but doesn't have any speaking parts? She's just there with the other ladies. And of course, having William Shatner as the bad guy is pretty hilarious, very funny. Anyway, enough with the parody. Let's get to the fourth one, Lethal Weapon 4. And they had another cast member. "Hi there, my name is Chris Rock. Of course, I don't look like him, but it's the same old Chris." "Hey, you're looking kind of, pretty, mad out there." "Why you say that?" "I mean, when you see a dead body, I thought that kind of remind you of your past or something. I mean, did you have a bad childhood or something?" "Not really. I mean, I couldn't even go outside because there's a lot of gangsters and gunfights and everything. And the only thing I had to look forward to is the floor. Ate on the floor, slept on the floor, watched TV on the floor. See, I didn't know how to walk until I was 10 years old. And so every time when I see the crime, I don't think about the crime. I'm thinking about that gay darn floor. It pees me off." And I also like the argument between Joe Pesci and Chris Rock. And a little known fact, Lorna is pregnant, and so is Danny Glover's daughter. She's pregnant too, but he doesn't know who the father is. But it turns out Chris Rock, he's the father. And Danny Glover doesn't know it. I mean, to Danny Glover, he kind of, all that time when Chris Rock's always been really, really nice to him, giving him coffee and such. I remember Danny Glover's going like, "He's always kissing my butt, giving me coffee and some crap." And he's starting to think that Chris Rock is gay for him. Without even knowing that the reason why he's acting so nice to him, because he's going to be the father to his daughter's child. Wow. Anyway, the bad guys they're going to deal with here are a bunch of Chinese gangsters. And of course, Jet Li himself, he's playing the bad guy on this one. And how the story go on this one, Jet Li, him and that guy named Benny Chang, who's the bad guy, who's also the bad guy, what they're trying to do is trying to make counterfeit Chinese money for their general so they can release those 4 Chinese bad guys who are in prison, and those 4 Chinese bad guys who are called the Forefathers. One of them is Jet Li's brother. He was trying to set his brother free, while at the same time they were smuggling Chinese slaves into America. Now, of course, the INS are trying to take them all of them back, but Danny Glover, he only found one small family in a rowboat from the ship that they were fighting in. And he's going to do like he would expect his ancestors would have done. Free those who were slaves. So he pretty much let the this Chinese family called the Hongs live in his house. Wow. And of course, also Danny Glover's been making a lot of money. A little known fact: his wife has been writing these erotic romance novels And of course, during the gunfight, Mel Gibson was like, "Hey, where'd you get the money? Remember those erotic novels from Linda Park? Oh, yeah. Are you boiking her? No, I'm not boiking her. That's my wife's maiden name. Oh, you are boiking her. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Never seen it that way." And of course, Jet Li playing a very dangerous bad guy, doing his thing and such. So, finally, and of course, Mel Gibson realized he's getting really too old and about ready to become a father to Lana's child. But at the same time, Chris Rock is about ready to be a father too, and of course, Danny Glover being a grandfather. And of course, they ended the series with the doctor taking a picture of all of them, and he said, "Are you guys friends?" "No, we're family." And then they ended the series singing, "Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends?" And of course, this was the last of Lethal Weapon after the fourth movie. And I thought and everybody always making rumors saying that they're going to make Lethal Weapon 5, but I doubt that's ever going to happen. But believe it or not, they did made a TV series of Lethal Weapon with Damian Wayne, and I heard what happened to the actor who played Riggs in the TV series. He had a huge temper problem and he was really difficult to work with, so they fired him and killed off his character, so now they have this new actor taking his place. But if you ask me, I think Damian Wayne's getting too old for this crap. I just wanted to add that to it. Anyway, this is my Lethal Weapon review for the day. For those of you who enjoy my Lethal Weapon review, please leave a comment down below, hit like and subscribe. And Christmas is going to be coming soon, but sadly, folks, after this I'm going to go see a dentist. I got a deformed tooth and it made a cavity on one of my wisdom teeth, so those two is going to be pulled. So I'm probably going to hold off on the reviews, maybe before Christmas or maybe after, who knows. But I am planning something very special for Christmas, so stay tuned. I'll probably try to get through the pain and do my review. Who knows? So, see you later, folks.